that watches Fishing the West or reads my work in the Fish Sniffer magazine knows that I love trout fishing. Every year I get to fish some of the state's best trout fishing destinations. So far this season, I've chased trout on more than 20 different bodies of water, including some of the state's best lakes, reservoirs, and rivers. A couple of these trips really stand out in my mind and won't soon be forgotten. I'll be detailing those trips on this edition of Fishing the West with Cal Kellogg. The first trip took place on April 23rd, the opening day of the stream trout season in Northern California. The trip started out as a hunt for rainbow trout, but ended up as a search and rescue drama complete with helicopters and firefighters. The second trip took place in late summer when Fish Sniffer contributor Tom O'Brien and I hiked into a very special high country lake that kicks out brook trout to 15 inches. A 15-inch brook trout is a real monster in the high Sierras. A short time after dawn on April 23rd, I hooked up with my good friend and High Sierra trout fishing legend Chris Hammond outside the town of Auburn, California. Our plan was to drive down to the Ruckachucky Rapids section of the Middle American and then fish our way upstream looking for rainbows and perhaps a nice brown. I followed Chris down to the river, taking in the beautiful scenery along the way. After hiking a quarter mile or so, we stopped at a likely looking stretch and set up our gear. The water was cold and the trout were pretty lethargic first thing in the morning. This made for tough fishing, but we figured if we stayed with it and worked the water thoroughly, we could draw some strikes. Persistence paid off. After about 40 minutes of experimenting and methodically working the water, I was able to hook the first fish of the day on a black and yellow Panther Martin spinner. The feisty wild rainbow put up a good fight in the surging current. After quickly showing off the rainbow to the running video camera, I released the fish to fight again another day. The hike upriver along the stream bed wasn't easy. It was punctuated by big slabs of granite, tangled berry bushes, and the occasional rattlesnake. We found this snake sunning itself on the rocks, detoured around it, and kept pushing upstream. Minutes after I released my rainbow, Chris got on the scoreboard with a rainbow of his own. This pan-sized wild fish jumped all over a baby nightcrawler. It was a while after Chris released this fish that things took a turn from fun to frightening. We got separated, and when Chris didn't return to the vehicles at the assigned time, it took me nearly 2 hours to find him. As I searched for him, my mind was whirling. Had he gotten bitten by a snake? Did he break his leg? Did he have a heart attack? There were a lot of question marks. When I located him deep in the canyon, he was slumped, semi-coherent, and yelling for help. I made the call and got the first responders on the way. The first vehicle to arrive on the scene was a CHP helicopter. I felt relieved when I heard that big helicopter flying down the canyon. Several minutes after the helicopter showed up, CDF firefighters and a California State Parks ranger arrived on the scene. After assessing Chris's situation, the firefighters and the ranger decided the best way to get Chris out of the canyon was via airlift from the CHP helicopter. Within minutes, they had Chris attached to a stretcher and ready to fly. The afternoon wind was whipping through the narrow canyon, and flying that helicopter took courage and skill. This footage speaks for itself. that, Chris was headed for Roseville and a night stay in the hospital. Here's what he had to say the next morning. Well, here's a better view of Chris Hammond. What happened yesterday, Chris?
Well, pretty excited. Opening day for trout season on the American River, and was invited to join noted profile person Cal Kellogg to meet at the Ruckachucky, do a little trout fishing. And I have done this canyon, 100 times since I was a youngster. And I jumped at the opportunity to meet Cal because I've never met him. And anyway, the day started out great. We met at early in the morning, and we met at the top of the Ruckachucky at Driver's Flat and Forest Hill Road, and we made our way down to the bottom of the canyon. Got down, it was a nice cool morning, absolutely stunning, beautiful weather. And we had a great day. Action was slow at first, no fish, but Cal was tearing them up by the time the sun hit the water. As we made our way up the canyon, I had noticed that over the years a lot of overgrowth over the rocks, and there's actually no portage trails around the canyon anymore. When I was younger, I used to be able to make it up the canyon and back in 3 hours. Well, we got separated, and it just happened. And it occurs to me, because I consider myself a seasoned veteran, that it doesn't matter your skill level or your experience, you can get into trouble. You got to stay hydrated. That's the number one thing, which even I did. But I started to get heat stroke. We were separated, and I started losing my balance. And I took 2 pretty good spills. If you want to pan down, you can see my legs. And I discovered that my left heel can actually touch my buttocks. Yes, so I did a yoga maneuver that probably isn't in the yoga book.
Yeah.
I'm pretty defiant. I made it to the portage of Ruckachucky Rapids, and I was determined to make it out of there, but I was dragging, absolutely dragging. And I denied assistance twice, and then I finally gave in. I caved in and admitted to myself on the inside, I need help. I'm in a desperate situation. So Cal happened to be at the top of the trail, and he made the 911 call, and within minutes, park rangers showed up on the scene. Officer Tom Pagan of the California State Parks office out of Auburn was first on the scene to assist me, and he assessed the situation. And I still insisted that I could walk out of there or someone could carry my gear, and he convinced me that because of my dehydration and my injuries that I should be evacuated out by emergency personnel. Next on the scene was the Forest Hill Fire Department, and a whole line of guys came down, led by Mark Kleiner. And I've got to commend all the officers, the park ranger. They're absolutely professional. Placer County has got the best rescue there is. And the helicopter came into the canyon, and it was quite the experience, because when I heard the helicopter, I had found a little patch of shade under a rock, and the helicopter flew over me, and I waved my hat. And I was thankful, but I was like, what's going to happen next? And Cal got some footage of me being airlifted, and let me tell you, that's probably, I've experienced many things in many years in the Sierras. I've seen a lot, I've done a lot, and I'm going to continue to do a lot. But being airbasketed up in the air under a helicopter was probably one of the most terrifying experiences that I ever had, especially when I got underneath the helicopter and the basket, which was tipped on an angle, started spinning. Well, I was thinking, oh God, just get me into this helicopter. But they didn't. They flew over to level ground and they landed. I was so glad to be on the ground. So here we are the day after I'm out of the hospital, and I'm feeling strong. I'm sore. I hurt, but good medication and good help. I'm doing all right. I'm here with my son Justin and Cal, and another day. I'm a little bit older, a little bit wiser, and again, I would just want to stress a point. You can get into trouble. It can happen in a blink of an eye. Don't be arrogant with yourself and be overcompetent. Stay safe, have fun, enjoy the outdoors, but be careful and watch out after each other.
We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors with some High Sierra brook trout action. Fishing the West with Kel Kellogg is brought to you by Penn Fishing Tackle, Abu Garcia Big Game Reels, Cousins Tackle Premium American Fishing Rods, and the Fish Sniffer, the premier source for West Coast fishing information since 1982.
He's just swimming straight in. I don't even, all of a sudden he's going to wake up here. Come on.
This summer, Tom O'Brien spent a lot of time at a High Sierra lake that boasts brook trout approaching 15 inches.
Look at this thing. Beautiful brook trout. High Sierras. About 12 to... Get a little back in the meantime. Gotta watch yourself, don't get hooked by him. Grab nice and gingerly. Pop that thing right out. There he is. Just an absolute beautiful fish. And there he goes. He's got a follower. Beautiful fish. Oh my gosh.
Tom would generally give me a call after each of his trips, and it seemed like he was always catching and releasing 20 or 30 brook trout. It was very impressive.
Spunky little dudes. Right there. Little Castmaster. I got my barbs clipped so I can let these things go real fast. Beautiful. We're just letting the Castmaster go out and hit the bottom and then retrieving it right along the ground. And this is a result here. This is a medium-sized one. We're getting some bigger ones. So I'm just throwing this thing out there as far as I can. We got a good little group of fish just kind of swirling right here. And I'm going to let it hit the bottom. As soon as it hits the bottom, I'm going to pop it off the bottom. And then I'm just going to retrieve it really slowly. Look at this beauty here. That is a fat brook trout. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful fish.
Finally, late in the summer, my schedule opened up and I was able to visit the lake with Tom and see the brook trout action for myself. After an early morning hike, we started tossing lures just after sunrise.
All right. Oh, cool. Oh, no.
Tom's buddy Dylan hooked a fish on his first cast.
Nice. Good deal.
It looked like a dandy brookie to me, but Tom and Dylan thought it was pretty small. As you can see here, the trout jumped all over a gold Castmaster.
So it looks like you're hooked up there, Tom.
Yeah, I got me a little, probably 10-12 inch brook trout.
So you're reeling that fish in. Kind of tell us about the situation here. Kind of where are we? You know what? How'd you find this lake? Stuff like that.
You know, we're in a high Sierra lake. There's a whole trail system all around that hits 20, 30 lakes up here, and just got out and started hiking, and basically all these lakes up here have fish just like this.
That's a beautiful brook trout. Look at that. I've done a lot of fishing in the Sierras. That's a really big brook trout for the Sierras.
Yeah, it's pretty standard. We'll get into some bigger ones in a little bit. But yeah, these are great.
And what'd you catch that fish on?
Little Castmaster.
Very cool. Whoa.
Later in the morning, the fishing got even better, and that's when I decided to get in on the action.
That's pretty good. That's 2 casts, 2 fish. I think all of us, we've caught like 4 fish here in 5 casts or something like that. So awesome. I think this one might be foul hooked. He's looking funny. Another awesome little brook trout. Very cool. Interesting. So that was interesting. That fish hit on the drop, just letting it drop on a tight line, and I think that's something that some guys overlook. That's sort of like jigging for bass in a way, you know. You just let it fall on a tight line and shake the rod tip occasionally as it goes down, and oftentimes you'll get hit. It's just a little fish. Nice to go. So Tom, you've been telling me about this lake for a long time, about the brook trout, and finally brought me up here, and it was everything you said it was and more. You know, your average brook trout in the Sierra is probably 6 to 8 inches, and these fish are a solid 10, 12 inches, something like that. So
Yeah, they're good fish.
Tom does a lot of high Sierra fishing. So can you give us an overview of fishing the Sierras? How do you find these lakes, and what's the season up here?
Mostly I just put on a pack like this. I hit a trail system, and I sometimes will do like 8 to 10 lakes a day and just cruise around and fish with different baits, and you kind of learn over the years what fish are where. Most of the fish I catch are down deep, so I let my lure sink to the bottom. Seasons, I like it as soon as the snow melts, and then through summer's decent, and then again in like late September, October is when it really lights off, and you catch the bigger fish then.
Excellent. So that fall bite I've always heard that the fall bite up here is excellent. So
yeah, the fall bite is really good. It's really cold, so you got to be prepared, and a lot more windy, but it's a great bite.
awesome. Well, we'll catch you on the next episode of Fishing the West. Thanks for watching.